Hey, what's going on, everyone? Tom here, and welcome to the Notorious EDC podcast. Today is the day. We got my first guest, and my guest needs no introduction, at least to my coworkers who have seen him in banana form as a sticker, wielding a weapon on my water bottles, and I've had to explain who he is many times to everyone I work with. Joe Bananas is in the building. Well, he's virtually in the building on Zoom, and we've been friends for a long time. He's one of my oldest knife buddies. Thank you, Joe, for doing this today. I appreciate your time.
I'm honored, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. You know, it's funny. I was thinking about how talking to people at work, I talk about my knife buddies a lot. Do you talk to people at work about knife buddies, or is it like a separate part of your life? Because I feel like with my work, I'm with people for 10 hours in a room. So we like have to make conversation, and whether or not I want to talk about something, eventually we kind of cover that territory.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because I'll mention to a couple of guys about like, oh, my buddy in New York, or hey, I got a buddy over, and like, wow, where are all these people from? It's like, oh, they don't understand that we met or we meet in this virtual world, and we're spread all over the place. So yeah, it does come up every once in a while, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and I think it is nice. Obviously, to me, the whole aspect of social media, that's like the best case scenario, right? Like we find like-minded people that are into the same shit as us, and we can make friends that way. Whereas like in a place like New York, there's not many people that like knives here. People are actually terrified of them. So I think for someone like you who lives in Indiana, it's probably pretty common to see someone have a pocket knife or, you know,
oh yeah,
or other weapons.
Yeah. It's weird if you see someone that doesn't. And right. I think almost here you kind of do like the pocket clip spotting.
Wow. So you guys are rocking pocket clips. Clips out.
Yeah.
Wow.
You clips out.
Wow.
So yeah, I always do that anyway. I've always, any kind of a store I go into or something, if it catches my eye, I kind of squint, I look and wonder what he's carrying and see if I can notice like the Benchmade clip or Spyderco clip.
That's funny. Yeah, I wouldn't dare have my pocket clip showing in New York City. And even though now it's like legal, allegedly, it's such a gray area. You still can't, technically not allowed to take knives on the subway because they have their own laws. So you're not really, I mean, it's like legal to carry a knife now, but everyone takes a train everywhere. So it's really not legal, you know?
Right. You're better off just not.
Exactly.
Not showing.
Yeah. Not carrying it. Officer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like also there's been so many changes in the EDC world from when we kind of, I don't know, what year did you get on Instagram with, or what year did you get into like the EDC Instagram? Because I started in 1914, 150 years ago. I started in 2014, and I think we started talking like 2015. So you were there before me for sure.
I want to say it was maybe 2010.
Well, Instagram started in 2011. So you were there from the beginning then.
I remember scouring forums in like 09 and 2010, finding Instagram, and then it didn't take long, you know, before, and everything was chronological then. So, you know, if you were searching something or you started to follow one guy, at least you would see it.
Right. It worked way better then.
It did. And it didn't take long to really dive into it. So I would say really hardcore into the Instagram EDC, probably, let's say 2012.
Right. So that was pretty much right from the jump then. Yeah, that's when everyone was using that toaster filter with the like little white borders and all that stuff. Man, it was tough times for Instagram EDC back then, dude. Absolutely.
Yes, it was.
Absolutely tough times. Yeah, it was like I said on the first podcast, I just remember it was like everyone had the crazy like charcoal look to everything, and I don't know, it just seemed so like cooked, so barbecued, you know. It was rough.
For HDR'd.
Yeah, it was too much. It was too much.
Yeah, it was.
And I also feel like back then, I don't know, I think with the evolution of social media, it has kind of exploded the EDC world because there's
for sure.
There's just way more people that have access to it, and there's more show and tell going on. So I feel like that made more knife designs and more makers. Do you feel like back when the early days of social media for the EDC world were around, it was like, I don't know, there just wasn't as much to kind of choose from, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that.
And stuff.
Back then it was kind of, I just remember everything was overbuilt.
Yes.
Everything was huge.
Yes.
But it was cool, you know, but it was like literally you had these 1 pound bricks that you would essentially put into your pocket. And that was,
pry bar.
you know, exactly. Everything was just so big, super thick scales, super thick blade stock. And yeah, there wasn't much variety. It was just kind of like, here you go. And then, yeah, each year it seemed like something new would happen, and scales got a little bit thinner, blades got thinner, hollow grinds got super popular. And, you know, people started to care about thinness behind the edge and
being able to cut with a knife.
Yeah. Instead of just mauling something with it.
But you're right though. Like in those days, I remember being like, hey, can you guys make that knife a little smaller? You know, just like being so frustrated because everything was gigantic. I mean, I started in the 3.5 inch blade world. That was what everything was back then. And if you could find something with a 3-inch blade, it was like very rare. Even like, what was it? The mini grip is what I had first. And the Hinderer XM18 3-inch. And I feel like that was like, whoa, these guys are taking a chance with these tiny knives.
Yeah. No, they really were, because that was not the popular thing at all. So to do a sub 3.5 or even a sub 3-inch was really wild at that time.
Very risque.
Yes.
And now I feel like it's the opposite. Now I feel like it's very normal for 3-inch blades, and 3.5-inch blades are like the XL versions of things now or whatever. Yeah.
Cause even myself, like, you know, I've got huge hands and I don't like a 4-inch blade is out for me. I cannot do it. It's too big.
Yeah.
It's too much. I know a lot of guys like the Spyderco Military that is a 4-inch blade and they love it. And to me, it's like, it's cool, man, but I just don't want to carry that big of a knife. You know what I mean? It's just too much.
That's a massive knife for sure. Yeah, I get it though. You're a big dude. You're like 6'4" or something like that, and you got these big bare hands. So I completely understand. You can't do anything with a 3-inch knife, really. It's tough.
No, it is, but I do love them aesthetically. I think they flow. I don't know. Some designs in a 4-inch blade flow really well, but I think a lot of those 2.8, 2.9 inch blades, 3-inch blades, even 3.25 maybe, a lot of those designs flow very, very well, and I like it.
Yeah, there's a lot of really nice knives at like 3.25, but I'm like, I don't know, it's a little too big for me. Didn't you have, what was that? That Riate Tashi knife that you had, the baby machine.
Baby machine.
That knife, wasn't that like 3.5 or was it 3.25?
I think it was 3.25, but you could kind of choke up on that a little bit. It had a kind of a faux choil to it, which allowed me to be able to handle it really well.
That was a
Without that choil, I would have been in trouble.
That was a sick knife. I really wish that one was under 3 inches, because Tashi I feel like his designs are some of the most unique, and you can like spot it in a group so easily.
Yes. I love Tashi Baruka. That dude is a badass.
Yeah. He makes amazing shit. And
he does.
Actually, I was going to ask you, what are some of the knives that you have loved over the years that maybe you don't have anymore or that you still have?
God, man, there's so many.
Yeah. Cause everyone's got like knives that come and go, you know?
Yeah, it's always weird because you know you'll go back to the and I got it from you, where you can go on Instagram and you can go back and it'll flash to 3-5 years ago.
Right.
And every once in a while I'll click through those and just kind of get sad for a minute, going, oh man. You know, like that's the one I let go. But it was weird because it happened so much, I think, early on, because one of the ones that I really, to this day, I kick myself in the ass for was I had an old pivot Umnumzan Tonto. I had no idea where an old pivot was. And this goes back probably like 2013. I didn't know how big of a deal the old pivot was. I liked it, but I didn't realize the new pivot was a thing and those weren't going to be made anymore.
What was the story with the old pivot?
The old pivot on the Umnumzan, it was larger in diameter, maybe like a 1/4 inch in diameter. It was huge on there.
Overbuilt. Yeah. Back in the day.
Overbuilt. And it used proprietary hardware to take it off. It had 4 holes that were in it. And of course you could buy the tool, and if I remember right, I think Hinderer even made a tool for it. But, you know, you're paying extra money for the tool, and a lot of people didn't like it, but it looked beautiful. Now they've switched to the smaller pivot. Anyway, either way, I sold it thinking, no big deal. I could get another one. And then, you know, you fast forward to now, and to find an old pivot Umnumzan for even a remotely reasonable price it's not going to happen. So yeah, there's been a lot over the years that I really regret letting go of. The Les George VECP, that was a rough one to get rid of. That was probably my very first like nice knife. But again, you know, back in the early times, like, I can get it again. It's no big deal.
That's the worst feeling, is being like, this is no big deal. And then it's just gone for good. There's just no getting it back. There's no getting it back. Because they're out there sometimes, but to get it out of someone's hands, it's going to cost you.
Yeah, because that person may not be in the same position they are where you and I are now, where they go, no, I'm not getting rid of this one. I love it, and I'm keeping it forever.
I will be buried with this knife.
Yes.
That old
you know,
thing.
So it's kind of weird, man. You know, I mean, now I know, being around forever, exactly what I like and what I don't. And I will not buy it if I don't love it and know that I'm not going to use it and beat the hell out of it.
I wish I was like that. I feel like I'm like, that's cool. And then I buy it, and then it sits in the drawer. And then I'm like, I got to get rid of this knife because I never use it. And then I go to sell it, and I take it out so I can take pictures of it. And I start playing with it, and I'm like, I don't want to get rid of this knife. This is a really nice knife. Like, I have probably 25 knives on a list that I want to get rid of for sure. And one of them is the little native avocado, because it's just a little too small. And the fact that there's no lanyard tube means that it's a little bit uncomfortable, even for me, someone that likes small knives. But damn, it's so cool. It looks really cool.
Yeah.
And it feels good in your hand when it's open. The blade's a little too thick on it for cutting cardboard and stuff, in my opinion, just for ease of use. You know what I mean? To be nitpicky. And I feel like at this stage in the game of collecting knives, I've been collecting knives for like 7 years. I feel like I should be nitpicky. It's like, I should know what I like at this point. You know what I mean? So it's tough. It's tough. But yeah, I feel that. It's like, man, there's so many knives that I've had and sold, and like there's probably like 3 off the top of my head that I'm just bummed on that I got rid of. But one of them was the Pena jigged Lanny's clip, the all titanium one. I had it in like 2015, and I think I sold it just because of, you know, just going through the whole merry-go-round of like, I have to have this knife. It's the coolest knife ever. And then the honeymoon wears off. You get a couple other knives, and then all of a sudden it's not in the rotation anymore. And you're like, well, if I'm going to get something new, I should sell something. But it's one of those knives where, like you said, when it pops up on your story, like, it's just like the sad music plays in the background almost, because you just get sad, and you just wish that you had that knife again. So who knows? Maybe that will find its way back into my collection. I may have some things in the works trying to make that happen. So I don't know.
I know for one of yours is that GEC that we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yes, the Viper. That knife. Actually, yeah, the Viper, man. And that's exactly like what you just described, because this knife, I got one.
I know it's a sore subject. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. It's fine. It's totally fine. I'm fine, man. No, it's all good. It is what it is, dude. It's like, there's so many knives out there. You can't really get too hung up on stuff because there's just so much stuff. But it's one of those knives where it's exactly like what you said, like with the old pivot. They have an older version and they have a new version. And the older version has micarta and stuff. And if you can find one, I think the last one I sold for like, I think I bought it for like $170, which is totally reasonable for GEC secondary, and I sold it for like $130 because I used it, and now they're going for like $300-400 on eBay. And
wow.
eBay numbers I don't think reflect reality by any stretch, but because a lot of GECs are going for like $300-400 on there. But at the end of the day, I'm not getting one because I'm not spending. I don't really want to spend over. Let's say I need this knife for a GEC. Mentally, I can't spend over $250. It's nuts.
Right. And that price that you have, like, and that, I think that's for everything. And I know exactly what you're saying, because there's a lot of stuff out there. Sure, I could get it if I wanted to splurge enough.
Yeah.
But each one of us has that price in their head and saying, this is all that I'm paying for that. And if it's more, I'm sorry, it's just my stupidity for letting it go, but I can't spend over this amount.
Right. And if it was something that was like, okay, this is a top 5 knife for me, then that's a different story.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, if it's one of my top 5 knives of all time and I have to have it back, then I'll make an exception, because I've spent way more on custom knives only to be severely let down when I got them, because I put them on this pedestal and I'm like, wow, this $1,000 knife has lock rock or whatever, a myriad of problems that that you just kind of can't even believe that people charge this kind of money, and for things that $100 production knife doesn't have. So, you know,
I've had that happen to me. Obviously, we're not going to say anyone specifically, but I remember getting a custom knife, and God, it was everything that I'd ever wanted. And I waited a long time for it, as you know that it takes. I got it in. I think I flicked it open 3 times, and it literally fell apart in my hand.
Dear Lord, that's disappointing. Yeah,
dude, the letdown. I
did you tell them?
You know, it was like I did.
What did he say?
He did make it right. He apologized immensely, paid for the shipping back to him.
I would hope so.
And I would too, but at that point you just want it fixed. But yes, he took care of it. I sent it back. He did fix it right away. It was a screw and kind of a titanium issue where it was stripped out. And I think I had it back within 2 or 3 days, and he paid for everything, and which was good. He made it right, but still that letdown was like, ugh,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. I mean,
you just felt deflated.
Yeah, you do, especially after building it up in your head for so long. And I've done the same thing where you just get it out of the mail and you're like, it's time. And then you open it and then it literally, I mean, falling apart in your hands is like, what? Even if he fixed it in 2 days, it's still like, man, I don't even want this anymore.
Honest to God, what you just said could not be more factual. Even getting it back, and it was perfect when I got it back, but it just wasn't the same. And you know, it almost felt painted in a way. Is that weird to say? You know what I mean?
It's like learning how magic works. Just a disappointment.
Yes.
You're just like, dude. Yeah, because you just
it was rough, dude.
You just want it to be good, like, from the jump, you know.
And it's never as good, you know. And I think everybody goes through that little phase, right, where you have to attempt and get your feet wet in the custom market, because there's certain people that you really like and you want to support them because you do like them, and there is nothing wrong with that. And then after a while, you just kind of realize, like, man, you know what? I like production knives. They're always theoretically perfect, dude. You know, to an extent.
A little known fact, and Blade HQ is going to kill me for saying this, but if you write in the notes when you order from Blade HQ, please check blade centering, they will open the box and they will check the blade centering for you, and you will get a knife that has a centered blade. Blade HQ.
That is dope.
I apologize in advance, but it's true. But it's true. And
that's cool.
Honestly,
I didn't even know that.
I think when you've been in the knife game long enough and you've purchased X amount of knives, you know that there's going to have centering issues. You know, there's going to be lock stick. There's going to be a million things that can bug you. Your expectations become lower and lower. And then when you actually buy a production knife and it's great, you're so excited because you're like, this is the best day ever. This $150 knife is amazing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, what would be your, okay, so the knife that you miss the most, would that be your favorite of all time? Or like, what's your goat knife to you? Because you know I love my Victorinox Cadet, and I've talked about it to death. So to me, that's like probably my favorite little knife of all time.
My goat knife?
Yeah, your favorite knife that you've had that you're like, yo, if I could only keep one knife, this is the knife.
CRK, Large and Cosi and Singo.
There it is. It's tough to beat.
100%.
It's tough to beat.
It is.
We've all gone around the block and talked about this a million times. The CRK is tough to beat.
Dude, I know they're expensive. I get it. And But I don't know, they are and they aren't. But I mean, and I was a Sabenza fanboy forever. I hope Tim Reeve doesn't get mad if he hears this, but this knife ruined the Sabenza for me. I don't know why there still is a Sabenza now that this came out.
Why do you say that?
I feel like the Nkosi is everything the Sabenza should have been, but we didn't know. I always loved the Sabenza. I've owned 4 of them, I think, and I loved every one of them. And then when I got this, and the first time I opened it, I went, "Oh my God!"
Well, what's different from this? What's the difference between the Nkosi and the Sabenza for you?
For me, it fits my hand better. I was worried about the humps in the scale, thinking my big, huge hands wouldn't fit in it, but they actually do perfectly. The way that the blade deploys to me is better. I don't know if that makes sense. It still has that kind of hydraulic Sabenza feel, or the Sabenza smoothness. I still feel like the Nkosi has that, but the blade deployment just feels better. There's something about it that just, I don't know if maybe they play with the geometry of the thumb stud to how that works, but to me, it works better. They moved the pocket clip over just slightly to give some relief off of that lock bar, so it's not pinching it as hard. The only knock that I will give the Nkosi that really pisses me off is anybody that's owned a Sabenza knows that you can take the whole thing down with 1 Allen key. The Nkosi takes 2. I know that sounds so stupid to complain about, but it's like, for 40 years, you guys have made the perfect knife with 1 Allen key. Like, I don't understand why you needed 2 sizes for the Nkosi. I don't know.
I'm sure Tim would have a great reason for it. And Tim,
he would.
We love Tim. Tim's the nicest dude. And
he is.
Poor Tim, he's got to deal with so many people on the internet. And I message him once in a while and I'll be like, "Tim, this person is absolutely livid that on the 31 you changed the pivot." And he was like, "We did not change the pivot. It is the exact same pivot as the 21. And I'm just like, there it is. The argument's over. You know what I mean? And
you know what's crazy? Because Rick Hinderer and Nick Strider don't get that. They don't get the backlash, I don't feel like, that CRK does. But my God, the emails and direct messages that Tim has received got to be insane.
Nuts. And I think that's because they're more in the spotlight. You know what I mean? Strider's more like, I think Strider and Hinderer are more, you have to kind of seek them out a little bit. Like, I think CRK is more put in the limelight than other knives. But I wanted to say the interesting thing about the Nkosi that you mentioned, like with those grooves. So my hands, I don't know, what are we talking about for scale of how big hands are? Like if I wear mechanics gloves, sometimes I'm an XL, sometimes I'm a 2XL. I guess it depends what year they were made. So I don't think I have small hands by any stretch. I'm like 6 feet tall. I don't really have small hands, but I don't have like meaty hands like you. I don't have like, I have accountant hands. My hands are soft and fragile now. I'm not lifting as much heavy shit anymore. Like when I was an assistant back in the day, my hands were like a little bit, I don't lift weights anymore. I need to get my life together, Joe, but that's another topic for another time. But when I hold when I was really excited about the Nkosi for that one reason that you mentioned, that pocket clip just going over, so it's not only on the lock bar. I was like, this is genius, because it was the one thing that drives me crazy about the Sabenzas is on the smaller size, like I would carry, you have to hold the knife somehow. So you're going to put pressure on the lock bar, and it really is annoying. So I was excited for that. But when I first held the Nkosi, the small Nkosi, it just wasn't comfortable because those points were just digging into my hand. And it's not like I'm sitting here chopping down trees or whatever, but it just wasn't an enjoyable experience. That being said, they transferred that turnt little pocket clip onto the 31s. So I think, because I keep going back and forth with owning a Sabenza, you anodized my Insingo back in the day, the dark blue. I
did, you're right.
Yeah. I put a banana edge on it, by the way.
I did.
We're going to get into the banana edge in a minute. So I think when they make the Insingo 31, I'm going to get that, and then
that'll be a nice knife.
And then I'm good. And then I'm going to sell everything except for 3 knives. And that's going to be one of the 3. I'm not really going to do that, but in my mind, that's what I want.
It sounds good. Yeah.
It sounds good on paper. But I think the funny thing is like when you first get into knives and then you learn about Chris Reeve, that's the knife that everyone is like, it's my grail knife. It's my grail knife. And I think when you finally get that, you really are like, holy shit, this knife is perfect, you know? And it's one of those knives where I think I don't want to compare it to a G-Shock. I want to compare it to a G-Shock in the sense of it's attainable and somewhat affordable, because even people that have $10,000 art knives or $1,000 custom knives will all say the G-Shock, Jesus. They'll say that the Sebenza is the perfect knife. And it really is.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy invented the frame lock. What else can you say?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like when anybody, you know, I'll get those weird DMs. I know you get way more than I get. Like, hey, man, like, I'm looking for my first, like, nice knife. What should I get? Sebenza. Just buy it.
Don't even think about it. Just buy it.
I know everybody has sticker shock and not everyone can afford it took me a couple of years to get the Inkosi. I think it's been out a while now, but if it's one of those things and you just have to have something right now, just try to like grin and bear it, get through that and save the money that you would spend on something right now and just save it. And maybe another 6 months and just buy a Sebenza. Look for one used somehow, but just buy a Sebenza or an Inkosi. And I promise you it doesn't get better.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say the advice that I give people is get on the Chris Reeve Facebook group. I forget the exact name of it, but there's literally, I don't know, 5 of them going up for sale every single day.
Yep.
So you can get one that someone beat up. The only problem to me is there's so many people that tinker out there, and I feel like I don't know what I'm buying, and I would rather just pay a little extra and know that I'm getting the real deal. Because if you're new to knives and you're buying your first Sebenza and there's something kind of off with it, it might really put you off to the brand like completely. Sure. And I don't know. I just feel like so many people these knife guys, they just have to mess with everything, dude. It's crazy. I don't understand it. They just want to
get it like on a Spyderco, but it's kind of sacrilegious to do that to a CRK, isn't it? I don't know. Like,
I don't know, knife guys just, maybe I'm not a true knife nerd then, because I can't stand taking shit apart and putting it back together only for it to not be centered or whatever. And I just recently...
Yeah, it drives me nuts.
I just recently learned how to recenter a knife. Taylor from Best Damn EDC actually put out a great video. I don't know if you've seen it. Or if
I haven't, but that's awesome that you did that.
Yeah, you might even know this trick. He was explaining that like if you open the knife and then loosen one side of the body screws and then push the knife a certain way and then tighten it up. Dude, it worked like a charm. I couldn't believe it.
It does.
So once I figured that out,
it does work well.
I remember one time I specifically called you when I had that first Sebenza because it was a mess. I couldn't even get it back together. I don't know I honestly don't even know what happened. I'm still scarred from it. Maybe
I think the washer was pinched.
That's right. That's what it was. So you have a good memory.
Washer was pinched.
That's like 6 years ago. That's crazy. But that brings me to the sharpening stuff, because if people wanted to know why your name is Joe Bananas, now's a good time to explain the backstory of Joe Bananas.
Yeah, I've sharpened a lot of knives. It's kind of wild. I don't know how many I've gone through, but I went through a lot. Enough to make my back hurts from sitting in the chair long enough to sharpen knives. Yeah, the Bananas edge.
Because people would say, wow, that's bananas. And then you became
Joe Bananas. That's right.
And you put the mirror edge on everything, and you could do the Windex test.
Yes. I spent a lot of time behind the wicked edge. A lot. I don't do it as much as I used to, and I kind of miss it. I've gotten to the point where I don't even do it to my knives anymore because I'm like, is it really worth the hour and a half that it takes to do this, But
it's a lot.
It is a lot.
I'm saying that like I do. I've never put a mirror edge on a knife in my life, but I know just from sharpening a knife that it's got to take so much time to get it to be a mirror.
I mean, honest to God, if you really wanted to do it like a flawless mirror edge, you're going to have a good hour and a half. Kind of a long time, especially as adults when you get busier and full-time jobs and kids, everything else to sit down and dedicate 90 minutes or more to just sharpening a knife.
to not even just sharpening it, to make it shinier, make the edge shinier. It seems like pretty extreme.
Honestly, it was sharpened in like 15 minutes. You just decided to go the extra hour 15 to make it look pretty. But yeah, it is cool. I mean, it took a lot of practice to get there, and I probably ruined a few knives in the beginning getting there. But yeah, you kind of, it was like I was telling you a couple of weeks ago, there is an intended use per the manufacturer, and I'm sure that works for them, but then you find your own way to do things that work maybe better for you, not better overall, but I found ways to use the Wicked Edge that worked for me. And I think it worked pretty damn good.
Yeah. And I know we were just on FaceTime recently because I got that, the Work Sharp kit from those guys. And I was just asking you if you had any like pointers or whatever, but man, that thing, I know that we talked about this on that call, but I'll just say this because I just want people to know. So these guys hit me up on Instagram months and months ago, and I was just kind of in a spot where I was just getting way too many DMs from people like, check out my thing and post about it and whatever. Just so everyone knows, when I get stuff like that, I tend to turn it down 9 times out of 10. And then if there's something that I think is going to be really interesting, I'll get it, with the caveat to the brand that I'm only going to post about it if I like it. So if you ever see me post about something, it's because I like it. No one's paying me to do it. They might give me the thing for free, but they're getting exposure or whatever. And to me, it seems fair.
But it's still because you like it, not because they gave it to you. It's because you genuinely...
I've seen a lot of shit back in my life and been like, it ain't going on the feed. Sorry, guys. I apologize. It is what it is. But that's one of those things where I turned it down more so because I just didn't have the bandwidth at the time, and I didn't have the space, and I was happy with just stropping my knives. So I was in a spot where I wasn't really... it sounds so stupid, but I have so many knives that they almost never really get dull that often because I have such a rotation. And if I needed to do a quick touch up, I'd hit the sharp maker, call it a day. But everyone that got one of these things kept posting about it, and it just looked really easy. And then when I hit up you about it, you were like, no, dude, this thing is sick. Like, and to me,
it is awesome.
Yeah. But to me, that's a real endorsement because you're someone that would sit behind the Wicked Edge for hours and hours and hours. So if you think the sharpener is good, I don't need to hear anything else. So I was like, I hit them up. I was like, yo, if the offer still stands, send it over. And yeah, man, it's been really nice. It's definitely easier with soft steel than with any super steels, but I don't know. It just seems like a really nice system. It's really compact. It works really well.
It does. I've had a lot of people message me about it after I posted, go, hey, what do you think? Is it really good? And I don't know what everyone's budget is. It's not ever going to replace my Wicked Edge or anyone else's Wicked Edge for that matter. But for what it is, it's perfect.
For quick tune-ups.
Yeah, it's not a sharp maker. You're not going to reprofile on a sharp maker. I have the marble base on my, you've never handled my Wicked Edge, but I have the marble base on it, which, looking on now was probably not a good idea. I should have got the paper base because my Wicked Edge is not only huge, but it probably weighs like 35 pounds, which is good because it doesn't move whenever you're going. But dude, it's a pain in the ass to move around. It's
furniture.
It is, dude. It's in my office and it's like, oh God, are we at that point again where I got to use it? So to get something like Work Sharp that can easily handle, the softer steels, it'll do some good stuff on S30, S35. I've done my Nkosi with it. It's not going to replace the Wicked Edge, but it'll do really, really well. And my knives are insanely sharp with it still. You're not going to get those like Banana's Edge mirror polished edges on it. But as far as a functional knife that you can take to work, use, and know that it's going to be good, it absolutely does that 100%. I have nothing bad to say about it in that way.
That's really all I want. I just want something that cuts at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough. It's like, I don't know. I just feel like I'm keeping it simple lately. Like things that just work well, I'm good.
Same.
I don't want to overcomplicate things anymore. That was another thing I wanted to ask you about. There's a lot of trends that come and go in the EDC world. And I was curious what you thought about the quote unquote pocket trash, which I hate that phrase because I guess my beer bomb is technically pocket trash, which is not a nice phrase, but it does serve a purpose. You can open a bottle with it, but ultimately it's not a knife. And to me, I feel like a lot of people's knives are pocket trash because they don't even use them. They just have them for Instagram. Sure. So what's the difference? But I was curious to see what you thought about some things like, you know, some different trends and stuff like that over the years.
I think the weirdest one was the spinners, right?
So weird, but so fun. You know,
that was
for a minute.
Wild. It was. And some people made some really insanely cool spinners, but I think that was like the weirdest one where like that.
Dude, the torque bar
that
changed
trend
the world.
Caught on. It did.
The torque bar changed the world.
Came out and was like, within several months, like preschoolers in Iowa were spinning plastic spinners and getting them taken away by their teachers. You know what I mean? And it was all because of the torque bar. It was wild.
I'm not kidding you. I have a friend of a friend who works in a kind of a tchotchke business where they make like little knickknacks and things. And he was telling me at that time, China was pretty much out of ball bearings because of the spinner craze. They literally could not keep up with the demand. Like they were making millions of those things. And to me, I remember when we all had torque bars, and for people who just got into EDC in 2020, number one, you're like, what's a torque bar? Hit pause and look that shit up real quick so you can come back and understand what we're talking about, because it's about to get fucking serious right now. At one point, you couldn't get a torque bar unless you dropped $700 or $800 on them. It was
absolutely 100% correct. Yeah.
And I had two of them that I got. I don't even remember how I got them or where I got them from, but I know that I got them for like table-ish price. I feel like someone might have hooked me up with one because they had like multiple, I don't remember, but I remember being at work after it became a thing like in pop culture, and people would be like, these are so dumb. And I remember just feeling so dirty because it was, I feel like, am I wrong? Did the torque bar not start that whole, I feel like that started everything.
Yes, that was the very first one that I ever saw. There was one before that. I don't know of it. I remember seeing the first video. Yeah. In fact, I still remember it was John Brown, Scoopy Loops, if you guys don't know.
Shout out to John.
Shout out to John, was in the pit at Blade, had a video of one, and I didn't go to Blade that year. And I remember he posted it to Instagram, and I immediately texted him and went, "What the fuck is that?" And he goes, "It's a torque bar." And I'm like, "What the hell is a torque bar?" Dude, within days, it blew up. Nothing was the same after that.
It's crazy. And what happened to, like, what was his name? Scott? I can't remember his name. I think his name was Scott. I wonder what happened to him. Does he still make them? I think he probably does. We got work to do after this podcast, Joe. We got to get down to the bottom of the torque bar wormhole.
I know that he did come out with if I remember right, he came out with another one after that. Didn't do as well as the torque bar. But yeah, the torque bar was wild, dude. I mean, that was kind of the weirdest one, I think. And then, of course, you had the exotic materials. That changed everything, too. It was like, okay, cool. Now I can get one in,
everything is Damascus now.
Yeah, everything. It was Mokume and Timascus and Dark Time. It was insane, dude. I don't know. I think the trends are kind of cool, though. It gives, I think it's cool for the makers, the custom knife makers to kind of, and I don't know, I'm not a knife maker, but I think it's kind of cool for them. For them to kind of maybe reset and make something besides what they always make.
Or tweak what they make too. Sure.
Sit down, kind of design something new. You know how long it takes to get a hold of a custom knife from a knife maker that you really you want something from them so bad, and the secondary market is ridiculous, and maybe you can't afford it, but you could afford, a pry bar or something. And it's easier for them to make batches of 100 of them instead of, in that time, they've made 1.5 knives, and so at least it allows them to be able to get stuff in the hands of the people that want it. And it's still cool for, I don't know. I know what you're saying as far as pocket trash. I've heard it called that as well, but it is kind of harsh to think of it that way because somebody likes it and wants it.
Yeah, it makes all this stuff is ultimately anything outside of like a razor blade or a box cutter is ultimately like fluff. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's kind of like it's all just a silly hobby at the end of the day, but it makes us happy. And
it is.
And life is meant to be enjoyed. You know what I mean? So if that's the thing that makes you happy, you're not hurting anybody. There's a lot of people that probably have sunk thousands and thousands of dollars into their knife collection when they probably have no business doing that. But I don't know. I feel like outside of that, if you're not hurting anybody, who cares if it makes you happy?
Yeah, all of us need that little boost of serotonin, right?
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, I think a lot of like the exotic materials, like you're talking about, so many of them are just things that I'm not really interested in because I don't like stuff that's too flashy. But
no,
it's funny how subtle the difference can be. Like Mokutai or Damascus to me is like, I've had a couple knives that have it, but the pattern just resonated with me. But generally speaking, I don't really like it. But like dark tie to me looks really cool because it's way more muted.
Dark tie is beautiful.
Exactly.
Yes,
so
it's like beautiful.
It's funny because someone that's not a knife person would be like, this is the same. Like my wife she calls it aquamarine. She's like, I don't like the aquamarine knives, but I'm just like, but this is dark tie. It's totally different. She's like, looks exactly the same. But
I am a sucker for dark tie. It's so beautiful.
It looks sick.
It does. I've never seen a piece of dark tie that I didn't like.
I'm trying to get some beer bombs made in that too. So we'll see if I can get that.
Dude, that would be sick.
It would be sick.
But I know what you mean with Mokutai and Damascus. There's it doesn't always look good. If the pattern's weird or it's got to be just right for me to look at it and go, dude, that's badass.
Yeah.
But dark tie, it's almost like you can't mess it up.
It's it's just so sick. And I think the purple and gray looks cool. I think the thing with Damascus, I just don't really love the blue color as much because it reminds me of blue anno. I don't know. I'm just being picky, and then the other trend that I didn't love at all is fat carbon. Fat carbon just never did it for me. It just looks kind of cheap, even though it's wildly expensive. But there's definitely been instances of it where it's black and white and it looks like almost like camouflage, like digital camo or something.
Yeah.
Or wood. And in that case, like it looks like wood. I'm not saying it's wood, but in those cases, I really like them. But generally speaking, it's just, I don't know, it just doesn't do it for me. But it makes a lot of people happy. So it's nice to have options in the crazy world of knives. I've
always been pretty outspoken on colored carbon fiber. I don't like it. One of the American companies was doing a lot of it there for a while, and I hated it. I wish that I loved the silhouette of the knife, but the colored carbon fiber ruined it for me. And obviously now you have companies like Flytanium, which does insane shit, and Sharp Dress Knives, who I've got my Carter scales from. So it's easy to replace that. So I'm glad that those companies exist so you can do that and customize it your own, but I wish it wasn't made like that. Like, somebody might want to buy that knife and not want to put another $65 into scales, or may not even want to take their knife apart at all. So I feel like they kind of limit their market in that way. Like, did you really have to do like the pink carbon fiber? Not everybody's going to want that, or red or whatever.
Yeah. It's nice as like an aftermarket option too. I love that. That's another thing that I love about production knives is there's so many, like even Enrique Peña's X series knives, they've become so popular that all these different makers and stuff are making aftermarket scales for them, which is awesome because you can change up the whole vibe of your knife, not have to buy a whole nother knife, which is really cool.
It is.
I hope eventually all goes well and I can get my knives done next year, fingers crossed. Then, I hope that'll be something that is a thing eventually too. So we'll see. And
That'd be cool.
I think that'll be nice to have all the options and everything. But, and then lastly, I was going to ask you, where do you see yourself going with knife collecting? Because if you're like me, I've kind of gone around the block with like wanting the Grail knives, getting the Grail knives, getting over the Grail knives, going back to production. So I feel like I made the whole 360 and now I'm just kind of like, I want to pare down what I have to what I actually use and then have a couple knives that I really like and that I just think are cool and that I just want to keep. So I was curious what your thoughts were on that.
I've already done that. I've already pared everything down and I've been there for a little over a year. I mean, like right now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 7 knives in front of me now. I have more that you just picked up over the years, cheaper stuff, whatever, but that I don't carry. But even out of these 7, I think 4 of them might get carried. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Do you use your knives at work though, or do you just collect them? Okay, so what do you use them
I use
for?
them
Just out of curiosity, not to put you
cardboard.
On the spot.
No. I cut a lot of cardboard. I cut a lot of shrink wrap. That like you would buy skids or pallets full of stuff and with shrink wrapping on there. So it's nothing like super hard use. It's not like I'm trying to cut through 2x4s and stuff with them, but I do use them every day. It's got to be something that I would use or not be afraid to carry. So obviously no full dress stuff. And yeah, I mean, I've really pared everything down. The only thing that I don't own any Benchmades, and it sucks because every Benchmade that I really want has been discontinued.
Really?
Which, yeah, it sucks, man. I don't know why. I don't understand Benchmade. I really don't. But I'd like to pick up, I would really like to pick up a Benchmade Anthem. That was their integral.
Oh, yeah. Was that the one that had like the really nice milling in it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a nice one.
Also discontinued.
Why? Maybe it wasn't a good seller. Was it more expensive?
It might not have been.
Integral?
Yes. I think they retail was like $350.
Which honestly is very reasonable for an American integral knife.
I could be wrong on that. I'm sure somebody listening to this is like, no, idiot, it was $475 or whatever. But I think it was around $350, somewhere around there. Obviously, now with it being discontinued, they're probably more. I don't know. Something about that knife I always really liked.
It's a good looking knife. It had a nice.
It is. The clip sucks, but the knife itself is really good. And one thing I always liked about it is any video that I saw about it, it had such a cool sound to it. I think because it was an integral, that every time it would like open or close, it was like, oh, it's such a cool sound, and I wanted to be able to just play with it and hear that sound, you know.
It's these things that bring us joy, Joe. These small
I know.
things in life.
Back in the day, matter of fact, the companies in your state, Direware.
That sounds familiar.
They're not as pop. They were back in that overbuilt era, you know, and only made these huge overbuilt things. But they had a few knives that just had that certain audible sound to them that was just so badass to hear that it was just cool. You know what I mean? I don't know. But other than that, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much all in on the production. There's only one custom knife to this day that I still want, and it's from Poltergeist Works.
I'm not familiar with them. It sounds familiar, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
He's a Polish dude, lives in Poland, and literally makes everything by hand. Literally.
I'm looking
down to the pivot. Super cool dude. He has a YouTube channel.
Oh, these are sick.
And he does some incredible work. I mean, he does even his phosphorus bronze washers, he turns by hand.
Wow. Wildly unnecessary, but I respect it.
It is. He works out of this little tiny shop in the middle of the woods in Poland. He has some videos on YouTube of him doing like a time lapse of a full build of a knife.
I remember you telling me about this guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And he scores his own music. He's in like some sort of like death metal band or something in Poland. I don't know, but he scores his own music for the videos. And it's just kind of cool that he does. It's all hands on. And I have been fortunate enough to handle probably 5 or 6 of his knives. And every one of them is just like, dude, come on. It's not a manufacturing company making the knives. It's this guy making them with his bare hands. And they're and they're so good. I mean, it's just, you would think like this, you know, $150,000 full-blown CNC mill is making all this stuff, and it's not. It's just a guy with a manual lathe in some small shed in Poland, and he's that good that it all turns out perfect.
There's a lot of savages out there, Joe.
Dude, there are, man. And to have something from him, the guy's name's Jacob, super nice guy. I've been able to speak to him a couple times through email, but other than that, I don't have any desire for the custom market or anything, but to own something from Jacob is still kind of like hopefully one of these days, you know.
That's high praise. If you guys want to check him out, it's Poltergeist Works on Instagram, all one word. I'll put it in the show notes too.
He's a badass. I really, really like that guy. Super cool. Lots of different designs. He did have some production stuff come out through Real Steel and one other company. I can't remember what it was, but I think he's had 4 or 5, maybe 6 production knives come out. It'd be cool to see, you know, Riyadh do something with him.
It would. I feel like they're one of the best, if not the best, production knife company that's out right now. I've not had,
hands down.
I know there's been, you know, one person here and there who's like, the etching on the logo was upside down on this blade. Like, I've had people tell me all that stuff, obviously, over the years, but man, every knife that I've handled from them has been absolutely phenomenal. And David, the guy that runs it, he's a knife nut. He loves knives.
Yep.
He's just like he's in the knife world. He gets it. So
yeah,
it's easy to try and translate ideas to him. Like even with my knife that I'm working on with him now, I didn't have to really explain too much. Like I made some notes and stuff and he knew like what I was going for, you know what I mean? So it's really interesting what they're doing. I think it would be interesting to see that dude, what's his name? Jacob, you said?
Jacob. I won't even try to pronounce his last name because I'll just do it injustice.
I'm half Polish. I could probably figure it out.
Starts with a W. That's as far as I'm going.
Wieczorkiewicz.
Dude, that sounds amazing.
Wieczór means like nighttime, so it's probably something about nighttime. I don't know if it's a literal translation, but that's also kind of gangster. Your last name means nighttime.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's better than mine.
It's a good time. It's a good time for poltergeist to be around in the nighttime.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I think like Riyadh, they could do something. They would do justice to Jacob. To think of any other company in the world doing production knives, I can't think of any other company that could do his custom work justice besides Riyadh. I mean, David Deng is a fucking badass.
He really is. He's a fucking savage. And the fact that I've never handled the Tashi Riate collabs, but as we just discovered 2 days ago, the T2500 now has a non-blue anodized pivot screw. So your boy might be picking one up just out of respect for Tashi. I've been kind of drooling over that. I don't even really have flippers.
That's a badass design.
But I don't even have flippers anymore, so I don't know how to feel about it.
I don't either.
But
I don't either.
I think I'm going to get one, dude. A little Christmas
present. They're so cool. There you go. And I don't think the pricing on those is...
It's probably $200.
Are they?
Maybe $250.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought they were right at $200, $225, maybe, something like that. It's not bad. Full tie.
Which is not cheap to someone who doesn't collect knives, but, you know.
No. But in the realm right now, I'd say that's pretty average.
For the quality you're getting, I think it's very respectable. I'm looking it up right now.
Absolutely.
HQ. Let me see. T2500 out of stock. I don't know where I saw this. Damn it. Oh, well, I'll find it later.
I know I've seen a price somewhere, but yeah, I mean, what David was able to do in a really short amount of time is unprecedented.
It's really amazing. Yeah, I can tell you from my personal experience with him that I don't know if that dude sleeps, because sometimes he'll text me at it'll be 2 o'clock here, which is like 2 o'clock in the morning there. And then I'll write him back and be like, dude, you still awake right now? And then he'll text me again at like 7. And I'm like, dude, you slept like 4 hours. Sometimes he doesn't sleep. He's a savage, dude. He's getting it done.
Yeah, he is. I remember first knife that he came out with, it was called like the District 9 or District 7 or something like that. But back then, they didn't even have a website. They weren't big. You had to message him on Facebook Messenger. It was the same thing. I would message him, and then just a couple hours later, he would message back. I would look up like, what the hell's the time zone difference, you know? And it's like, dude, this guy is responding to me.
He's a savage.
To sell me a knife. And I remember, you know, back in those days too, is when mid-tech was a big thing.
Yes, that was a thing.
And when he first came out with that knife, I remember flipping it open as soon as I got it, going, holy shit, this is not a production knife. And I think at the time it was like $175.
Better quality than some custom knives that I've had. Beyond
100%.
Without any hesitation, I can say that.
Yes, I fully agree. And at that time, I remember thinking like, dude, this thing's sub $200 and this is mid-tech level quality, which at that time would run you $400 or $500.
Right.
And it was blowing away any other production knife that you could ever name.
It doesn't even make sense, man. It doesn't even make sense. But
it doesn't.
Like all the stuff that Enrique's done with him has been so nice. I'm
not handled those, but I've heard great things.
Yeah, they're really nice, dude. I think I've handled some of the like the thumb stud knives, the bigger ones, not just the modern slip joint front flipper stuff, and they've been really nice too. But yeah, man, I'm so excited to make anything with him. Like the fact that he's even doing the beer bombs, I just feel lucky because I know he's got his plate full. Every knife maker in the game, I feel like, is doing stuff with him. Birch just did stuff with him earlier this year. Like so many knife makers are making knives with him, and he's knocking every single one of them out of the park, dude. They all look so good. So
they're all perfect.
I know it's crazy. He's set the bar really high, so really high praise. He did. David. He's the man for sure.
It's crazy to think like, you know, I know and you know the quality that comes out of his shop, and a lot of times you'll see a picture of something and love it aesthetically, but then you always kind of wonder in the back of your head before you get it, like, man, is it going to be nice?
Yeah.
And that through Riot, it doesn't matter. You know that it's going to be absolutely perfect. You just have to love it aesthetically. And as long as you like it aesthetically, the knife will be perfect. There's just no doubt about it.
And he just came up, I forgot the name of the model, but he just came up with that crazy, like,
the gravity knife.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yes. It's nuts. I wouldn't carry it because it's too weird for me, but like to at least check it out and just appreciate the innovation with it or whatever, just the design of it. I think it's really cool.
Badass. I would not carry it. It's not for me, but to look at it and know the engineering that went into that, the machining and everything that went into it to make it what it was, it's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, man. So there's a lot of stuff out there. It's interesting. And the thing that I said also on the first podcast is like all the guys that just got into EDC in the last year or two, they just have so many great choices. Like there's literally endless cool knives to pick from. And I think you just have to kind of just start buying stuff and just seeing what you like, because there's just so many options. And like, I keep going back to thumb stud knives, which is what I kind of started with. So I feel like for me, that's what I'm going to end up sticking with, is just the simple.
That's all. I was looking to see what I have in front of me, and the only two that aren't are Spydercos. So no,
that's fair.
They have the spider hole opening, but literally every one of them is a thumb stud.
That's fair. Yeah. When the Para 3 came out, man, that was what I was waiting for forever. And I had like 3 of them and I couldn't keep them because I think the blade shape just was too boring for me. Do you have a PM2 or no?
I have a PM2 and a Para 3. But the Para 3 is a lightweight.
Para 3? Oh, you got the lightweight.
I do.
Interesting.
I have a lightweight.
A small boy.
I don't know where it's at. I don't like it. It's weird.
I didn't like the lightweight one. It felt really unbalanced to me. It felt like the blade
there's
was
something
heavier than the handle. It felt like it was constantly going to fall out of my hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an odd, I don't know. It's just odd. I thought it would be a shrunken down 2, which it is, but it's not. I don't know. It's weird. It's just got a weird feeling to it. I don't, but I still have my, my original Para 2 that I bought, 10 years ago.
Really?
It is not in good shape.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You said you beat the shit out of it over the years, right?
I've murdered that thing, and it's missing probably half the body screws. And
oh my God,
I've had people beg me to sell them that knife because they couldn't find one. And even I've had people offer me $150 for it, beat the shit. And I said, man, I can't sell you this thing. It's not even, I can't do it.
Out of good will. You can't.
Exactly.
Is it a color they don't make anymore or something, or is it just the design's a little different?
It is. It's a DLC, black DLC, and camouflage. I know that there was a shortage for a while, like a year or so ago, where you just couldn't find PM2s. I don't know if that's still going on. I haven't looked into them in forever. But every once in a while, randomly, maybe once a year or so, I'll post a picture of it. And somebody, I can set my watch to it. Somebody will go, dude, please sell me that knife. Oh, no, man, I can't do that.
I mean, that's a nice combo, though. Black with camo. It's tough to beat that.
I love it.
It's tough to beat that.
It is. I'm a huge camo fan. I love it. I've always said that any Spydercos that I buy in the Para or design, they have to be DLC for me. I can't do sat. I don't know why. I just don't like them.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I don't know. I can go either way. Like with the Yojimbo, I feel like I've had the satin blade, I've had the black blade, and that knife, you need to see the grind lines on the hollow grind. Otherwise, it just doesn't do it for me. It's just a big, scary knife otherwise.
It is. I had the S90V carbon fiber Yojimbo. It was cool, but that's a weird knife. I don't know. The Yojimbo, I don't understand. I don't know why that was made.
Well, that goes back to our previous conversation. Why wouldn't they make a mini version? That's way more popular these days. I think they just made it because it has a goofy name and it just worked with the name. I honestly think that was the whole thing. Like, oh, the Yojimbo, that's funny. Let's make it.
Yeah, the whole play on words. But yeah, there should have 100% been a small version or a 20% scaled down version before there was ever thought of a bigger one.
Dude, who wouldn't buy a tiny, scary little knife like that? It looks menacing. I love that knife. It's one of my favorite
it is a cool
designs
knife
of all time. It was so sick, dude.
Trying to picture it in my head smaller, and I think it might actually look cooler smaller than it does as the regular version.
If they can make the PM2 into the Para 3, they can scale it down 25%. Come on.
Yeah, no, without question. Dude, with the tooling and everything that Spyderco has, I'm pretty sure they can do just about anything they want.
The mini Yojimbo would be so sick, dude.
That'd be a home run.
Especially in these, you know, smaller knife times and all that. I feel like people would jump on that for sure.
Well, I don't think that's any different than like Benchmade. If Benchmade would have made like an XL bug out and not made the mini bug out.
So confusing.
That would make no sense.
Yeah.
You know, you have to make a mini version of that knife. You have to.
Right. But it didn't have a funny name where you could just change one letter and then it, you know what I mean?
Right.
I honestly think that was the logic. There's no other rhyme or reason for it. So I don't know.
I'd co-sign with that. I'd co-sign on that.
I feel like the Yojimbo would probably fit in your hands better though.
It probably would, but again, that goes back to like, that's way too big for me, and I would never.
What is it?
It's almost comically big. It's got to be. I don't know, but it's got to be, because I think the Yojimbo was 3.5. So
I think it was 3 1/4.
Oh, was it?
The
Okay.
Yojimbo is a 4-inch blade, dude. 4 inches.
Dude, that's too big.
Come on.
That's too big.
In 2021, yeah, the Yojimbo is a 3.2 inch. So that's probably 3
Okay, got it. Yeah, 3 1/4. 4 inches is too big, dude. They did like a backlock native recently. Is that what it was called? The native chef?
Chief. It's the native Chief. Lockback. 4.08 inches. Absolutely massive.
Hate the fact that blade is that long.
Dude, that's a baseball bat with a sharp edge.
Yes, that's huge. I know our friends at Blade HQ did their own sprint run version of it with the JG10 that looked badass.
Sure.
The orange was cool as shit. I love that. But I'm like, dude, I can't buy this freaking thing. I don't want to carry that.
It only takes 2.5 miles of G10 to make a handle, though. It's too much.
Right.
It's too much.
And I know this sounds stupid, but it's like to pull that out of your pocket just to like, you know, get it ready to use just seems so
cartoonish. So
extra. Yeah, right. It's like, nah, come on, dude. I don't. The Spyderco military, I've always loved it, but the pocket clip's on the wrong side, and I'm a tip up only guy. I refuse to carry anything tip down. I don't know. A lot of people hate me for that, but and it's a 4-inch blade. I can't do it.
It's a controversial topic, the tip up, tip down.
It is.
I don't know why. It's whatever you're comfortable with, but over the years, I started tip down when I didn't know any better, and now I'm tip up.
I did too.
And there's nothing wrong with either way. Whatever makes you happy.
The only reason that I will not switch is I had a guillotine incident with my paramilitary 2 with it tipped down. Some keys had opened the blade in my pocket. I went to grab my keys out of there and just guillotined my finger in it, and it was a bad cut. And that blade's pointing the wrong way, dude. If it's in your right hand pocket. Yes, and that's exactly where it was. And being right-handed, everything just naturally goes in my right pocket, keys and all that kind of stuff. So once I was home and not bleeding anymore, the first thing I did was grab some torque wrenches and changed it to the other side. I've never carried tip down again. It's just always scared me.
It seems much safer to have it facing away from your junk.
Yes. Yes. In fact, they should not even ship any other way.
That's true. And I feel like on that note, we should wrap it up.
Sounds good, dude.
Dude, Joe, this was awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. Let's get your Instagram handle out there so people know where to find you.
I am at Joe_bananas, BANANAS.
A fun word.
Just like the song.
Exactly. I'll put it in the show notes too so people can find you there. But yeah, Joe has been a great friend over the years, and he's a great guy to know. So give him a follow. He posts awesome pictures, and he knows a lot of shit about knives, so you should follow him. But yeah, thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Tom.
Appreciate your time, and I will holler at you guys on the next episode. Peace.